Hi, I'm Amy Wilkins, leadership coach, former media exec, and your host of Thriving in the Messy Middle. This is a space for women leaders navigating those in between seasons, the moments when things feel uncertain, stretched, or messy, and you're trying to find your footing without losing yourself. Some episodes are conversations with remarkable women leaders sharing the lessons they've learned along the way. And other times, it's just you and me, slowing things down and naming what's really going on. Think of this as a place to reset, reflect, and reconnect with what matters most. Because thriving isn't about having it all figured out. It's about learning how to grow, lead, and move forward, even when things feel messy. During a recent conversation with Adrienne Valencia Garcia, she sparked something. Our conversation reminded me of a point in my career where a job ended in a pretty dramatic way, at least from my perspective. I remember feeling relieved to be out of it, but what I didn't fully understand at the time was what those 2 years had actually done to me. I had spent 2 years in an environment where I was gaslit on a daily. The CFO screamed at me often, and at one point, I developed shingles at 35. And more than anything, my time in that company shook my sense of self. And if you've ever been in an environment like that, you know how quietly that can happen. My confidence didn't disappear overnight. It slipped away slowly over time. But there was a moment where everything came into focus. It was a session with the industrial psychologist the company had brought in. I remember sitting there and using my time to describe what was actually happening. And when I finished, they said something I'll never forget. You've just described a morally bankrupt organization. You need to ask yourself why you're still here. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a while. Validation. Someone else could see it. But at the same time, it was unsettling because if that was true, then I had to face what staying there had been doing to me. And even with that clarity, I didn't leave immediately. But not that long after, the organization made the decision for me, and I was let go. And what has always stayed with me is that the input from that session was a tipping point for all of us. So when it ended, yes, I was relieved, but I was also carrying the impact of all of that in a way I didn't fully understand yet. And I did what most of us do. I jumped right into a job search. There was real pressure. There was the mortgage, our health insurance, all of it. And underneath that, I was questioning everything about myself as a leader. And then something unexpected happened. The recruiter who had originally placed me reached out and helped me land somewhere new. I remember interviewing and thinking, this isn't the biggest role I've ever had, but something about it feels right. The environment felt different, safer, more grounded. And I made a decision that didn't make sense to a lot of people. I took the role. People told me I was crazy, that I was playing small. But deep down, I knew exactly what I was doing. I wasn't stepping back. I was giving myself space. And maybe you've felt a version of this too, where something ends and you tell yourself to just move on. But something in you hasn't caught up yet. Because what I hadn't done yet was grieve. Now that might sound strange. The experience was difficult. Why would I grieve it? But here's what I've come to understand. Whenever something ends, even something that needed to end, there is still a loss of trust in yourself, a loss of the version of you that existed before. And when we don't take the time to process that, we carry it with us into our interviews, into the next role, into how we lead. It shows up as hesitation, over-explaining, or trying to prove instead of owning who we are. And not because we're not capable, but because something hasn't been acknowledged yet. That role gave me something I didn't realize I needed, a safe place to do that work. And I did. I rebuilt my confidence and found my footing again quickly. I was able to look back and find the learning without carrying the weight. So if you're in a transition right now, especially one you didn't choose, you might ask yourself, have I actually processed what just ended? Or am I trying to move forward while still carrying it? Because sometimes this is what the winding road of leadership actually looks like. Not a straight line forward, but moments where something ends and you're asked to pause, process, and begin again. Because you don't rebuild confidence by rushing into what's next. You rebuild it by honoring what was. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope something you heard gave you a little clarity, or maybe just a sense that you're not alone in this season. The messy middle isn't something we pass through once. It shows up again and again, and each time we meet it with a bit more awareness, a bit more choice, and a lot more self-trust. If this episode resonated, follow the show so you don't miss what's next. And if someone came to mind while listening, share it with them. That's how this community grows. You'll find links and resources in the show notes and more ways that we can work together at chooseaw.com. And I'll leave you with this reminder. You are the most worthwhile project you will ever work on. So until next time, keep thriving, even in the messy middle.